I want to say a warm greeting to all of our friends out there. If you've been to Acquire the Fire over the years and went on mission trips with global expeditions, or maybe you're a new friend from all around the world and have joined this Exponential Pastor group, just want to say happy Good Friday to you, and just ask you to think about what's so good about Good Friday. You know, I woke up last night, in the middle of the night, and it would have been Thursday night, and I was thinking this is the time we celebrate, of course, that Jesus was being betrayed. It was in the middle of the night, Thursday night, that he would have been in the Garden of Gethsemane and, praying, and then Judas came out. I was thinking about that in the middle of the night, and then Luke says by the time sunrise came is when he was taken before, the priests and that kind of thing. And then between 6 or so a.m. and 9 a.m., all the false trials, Herod and Pilate and Herod, and crucified by 9 in the morning. So he's hanging on the cross at 9 this morning, all the way till 3 in the afternoon when he died. It says at noon, from the 6th to the 9th hour, that would have been from noon to 3 o'clock, the whole sky was dark. So this is the day, and you think, what is good? Why do we call it Good Friday? And could I just offer some encouraging words from the life of Jesus, these last moments of his life? For all of us, maybe you're a pastor and you're in the middle of this challenging time. You're trying to encourage other people, but you're not sure how the church is going to go forward. Maybe you're just, in a very tough situation. You've lost your job. There's stress on your family with this COVID shutdown all around the world. And just imagine what Jesus was going through these last moments of his life, where he feels like he's abandoned by everybody. Even as we see one of the 7 phrases, he says, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, in Aramaic, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? And almost even feeling forsaken by the Lord. Maybe you feel forsaken right now. Everybody, all the good things that were happening for you aren't happening anymore. Well, those words, my God, why have thou forsaken me? They're actually from the book of Psalms, verse 1, Psalm 22, verse 1. And that whole chapter is this prophetic kind of writing of the psalmist describing this horrible crucifixion, horrible death. And it wasn't of him, it was David didn't die that way, but of the coming Messiah. It's kind of eerie all the way through. And, we always think about those words, God abandoned Jesus, and it was a very dark time. He's taking on the sin of the world. However, again, why, if all these bad things happen, why do we call it Good Friday? Well, I encourage you to go back and read that chapter 22 of Psalms. It's really shocking how clear. There's a lot of one-liners we remember that we've heard. Verse 7, mocked by their jeers, despised with their sneers, as all the people poked fun of me, spitting their insults. This is all prophetic of what's going to happen to Jesus. It ended up happening to them. They say in verse 8, this one trusted in God? They're mocking him for trusting in God. Verse 14, I'm completely exhausted. I'm spent. Every joint of my body has been pulled apart. My inward parts have melted away. All these graphic descriptions. Verse 15, I'm so thirsty and parched, dry as a bone. We know that Jesus said on the cross, I thirst. They pierced my hands and my feet. Verse 16, like a pack of wild dogs, they tear at me, swirling around me with their hatred. Verse 17, all my bones stick out, and look how they gloat over me and stare. So we see this horrible picture of the suffering servant here, it's called. Verse 18, with a toss of dice, they divided my clothes among themselves, gambling for my garments. You can imagine how Jesus must have felt reading through this over and over again throughout his life, realizing it's talking about him. And then at the very end, verse 27, if you read the whole thing, it says, from the 4 corners of the earth, peoples of the world will remember and return to the Lord. So there's hope at the end that something good is going to come from this. In fact, everybody's going to hear about this moment in history. Billions will end up hearing, and have their heart changed as a result. Forgiven, cleansed, purified. You'll see in verse 30, His spiritual seed shall serve him. Future generations will hear from us about the wonders of the sovereign Lord. So this whole prophetic scripture is saying, hey, all this is going to happen, but it's all about the future generations. And then it says finally, his generation yet to be born, verse 31, will glorify him, and they will all declare, it is finished. So you wonder, what was Jesus thinking about on the cross? He says, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, my God, my God. You wonder if he's meditating on this whole verse. Through the most horrific moments of his life that look totally hopeless, he's reminding himself of Scripture. Until at the very end when it says, it is finished, it's the very last words of this chapter, it's the very last words of his life. What a great model for us. That in the middle of the intense moment that you're in right now, or that you may have been through, or that may come, that we remind ourselves of Scripture, remind ourselves of hope. You know, I've heard it said that the eye can only see what the mind tells it to look for. The eye can only see what the mind tells it to look for. Our job then, as believers, is to tell our mind what to look for. Areas of hope, areas of Scripture, hope from Scripture that we've learned before, that we renew our mind with. Look for the things that are good, that God has done good in your life this last year, this last few years. That makes it a Good Friday. What makes it a Good Friday in the midst of all of this, that Jesus still said there's hope at the end of all of this. And I just want to encourage you to remind yourself of verses that will fill your heart with hope right now, even when the circumstances might not look so good. One other thing I just wanted to leave you with. You know, this whole night of betrayal was begun before the Passover time dinner, where Peter says, you know, I'll never betray you. And Jesus said, before the rooster crows 3 times, I'm going to betray you. And then you'll see in Luke 22 where he betrayed him once, twice, and the third time in 22:61. At that moment, the cock crowed, and then Jesus happened to be passing by, and he looked over at Peter. And then it says Peter, he wept. He ran off from the crowd and wept bitterly. So imagine how Peter must have felt. So he says, I won't deny you, I won't. And then Jesus says, well, actually, before the rooster crows 3 times, you will. No, I won't. And then he does. And we've all been in that moment, right, where we've committed, and then we made a horrible mistake. We made a bad decision, and we're so ashamed, we're so embarrassed, we don't know what to do. And there's Jesus looking at Peter, no judgment, no hatred, just love. Now think about that. Again, asking the question, what's good about Good Friday? You know, the things that I've done, that you've done, things that we've thought about doing, you know, motives, things that are horrible that we would never want to tell anybody else. It's not just the things we've done, it's the things that we know that we're capable of, or the horrible things we thought. We're actually way worse than that, you know, because we're born with a sin nature on the inside of us. And Jesus came to redeem us from that sin nature, but it still lurks and it tries to dominate us, right? And so part of the weeping that Peter had bitterly is he realized, I am this horrible person that, you know, that would do this and deny my Lord. But at the same time, he felt that. He also felt the love and the grace and the acceptance of Jesus. And there's something profound that happens when you take the one and you realize, I'm not just the sinful things that I've done or thought of, it's not just that. I'm way worse than that, because I've got this sin nature that wars within my soul, and I hate it, but it's there. But at the same moment that I own that and I realize that, the reality of God's unfathomable love, undescribable love, unending love, at the same moment, those are both realities. And when we embrace both at the same time, that I am this sinful person, but I am also loved eternally by the grace of God, I experience what someone's called like a self-quake, that like I get a rush of holy grace that fills my soul. It's like a fountain on the inside of me. That is what is good about Good Friday. And can I encourage you this Good Friday, this Easter, go for that self-quake. Own the sinful nature that's in you. Maybe you've been away from the Lord for a long time. Maybe you haven't connected for a while, but just own it. But then also recognize the supernatural, eternal love that he has. And at that same moment that you embrace both of those, you experience the grace of God. This is what I've been doing. I've been trying to do this every day. Experience that self-quake every day when I start my day, because it's only in that way that I can live in the river and the fountain of his grace that he expects and provided for us because of what he did on the cross. I hope you have a happy Good Friday and a happy Easter.